Hey everybody, Danny here. Welcome to the Soccer Expansion Project. First of all, as you may have noticed, I have not been around for about 3 weeks. I traveled through my work for the center out to Vegas for the US Indoor Conference. Fantastic experience. Lots of great people out there. And then, as you still might tell, 3 weeks later, I'm ill. I've been ill. I think I'm okay, but it's been a long time shifting it, and I've been busy and ill and busy and ill, so I apologize. Anyway, so I'm still working on what we look like in terms of a portal, the Soccer Expansion Project. But the idea is that we put together, like-minded people that have what I'm going to call a sensible approach to the sport. And on the right-hand side here, I want to be able to connect lots of really great people on this right-hand side that help provide those sensible solutions and great opportunities for kids. Working with Stuart and Gary Monk. They've just put some partnerships together with some ID camps in North Carolina, along with some scouting networks. So more on that to come as we introduce them. But I'd love for people to get involved at some point. Again, I think the mission might be just to have a sensible approach to the sport. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then on the left-hand side, of course, is everybody, me included, players, coaches, clubs, DOCs, TDs, parents, and fans. And inside the Soccer Expansion Project, our community, whatever that looks like, we have a Facebook group too. We're just finding ways just to have these things on offer. We have webinars, we have presentations, forums, offers, access, and we're sharing knowledge to help each other grow the game and grow the sport. And again, I said it, this is the third time, have a sensible approach to doing what's best for kids. So for today, a couple of things, and I don't want to sound like a whiny person, as I've been doing this for a number of years, a couple of decades, but I saw, we talk about the Simpsons and whatever else, where do they get their stories from? Where does the writing come from? And often, the real world ends up being a great opportunity to go and export data or information for storytelling. And so real life impacts us all. So in the last couple of weeks, I saw that there is an MLS Next Club advertising tryouts for their academy level teams for kids born in 2016. Now, I have a 9-year-old and he was born in 2013. So these kids would be 3 years younger than him. I was flabbergasted. Now, again, maybe these kids are at some point going to play on bouncy houses and have ice cream and have fun and do the movies and also do soccer stuff that involves a ton of games and activities and building that love for sport. I hope it isn't just drill-based activities, super serious, because these kids are 6 and 7 and 8 years old. So there's an inherent degree of pressure in that. Again, I don't want to downplay the efforts that might be going on there. It might be a fantastic program, but if you're being super selective as a group with kids born in 2016, I don't know. That's up for discussion for me. I'm not necessarily criticizing it, but maybe there's a sense that folks are trying to get kids into the club sooner with a pathway they want to define. And again, that pathway might include, these 7-year-olds being kids and playing World Cup or diving header games or who knows what, I don't know. I hope it's not super serious and kids being turned off by the time. I mean, again, kids are 7. So that was one thing. The other thing, excuse my my illness still, allergies doesn't help. But the other thing is we had a group that were 2010 boys. They were due to travel to a match and we didn't have enough players. And the match was 2.75 hours away. I prepped on the Thursday the opposing coach and manager to say, and the other DOC was, their group was top of the league in a decent, good level league inside of our situation. I said on Thursday, we're struggling. We only have 7. I'll let you know by Friday. On Friday, I sent a message to the manager and I said, listen, we have 7. I said, we are 2.75 hours away. These kids are 12 and 13 years old. I just don't think we can play. Really apologize. It's on us, no doubt. response from the DOC through the manager was that there was no way that this game can be played on any other date. There was nothing on offer. Therefore, it needs to be played. You need to be play shorthanded, or else. And I was like, wow, really? That's the offer? I mean, so we go down there with 7. You play 11 and we win, and you win the league that way. Like, is that what you want to do? So I said, look, we can't come. And then the response from the league, as the league were copied in on that message, was having too few players is not an excuse. Travel, we've all been there. Traveling is not a reason to not play this game. I agree. That's it's on us. There's no doubt. We're in a league that's 2 3/4, 3 hours away. It's definitely not. It's definitely our fault. My response was, listen, if you are going to make me ask 7 players to travel 3 hours for a match, then I think those parents, first of all, it's going to cause trouble for our club. But I think those parents would rightly potentially question what we are doing as soccer people. And actually, I wrote back to the league and I said, there's a good chance that because of this decision, if this is what you're making us do, we will be losing players from the sport. I didn't receive a response. The game was a forfeit. We were also told that we were going to be fined. It could be $500, along with field costs and referee costs and fine. I mean, it took me maybe $1,000. Again, it's on us. We couldn't fulfill that roster for that particular day. It's not great. But the idea of trying to force a game through to have families for 7 people travel, is that a sensible approach? Could it been that say, hey, you know what, this game is beyond us. We just can't do it. We've got kids doing different sports for all these different reasons. We have tried. We have had we've asked other players to come on board. We can't make it happen. We can come down with 7 and it'd be just a joke of a game. And those 7 families will be furious at the other families not being there and mad at me. Or we let it go. You guys have the win, have the forfeit. It's okay. And we move on. So we'll see. But that was that. So a little frustrating. But anyway, quick pause. Yeah, so being a Libra, on the flip side of that, if you're providing a league and you've got a team that's a little wishy-washy and can't make it, and you've committed to the league, that's frustrating too. I completely get that. And you don't want teams that are backing out games all the time, because that reduces the legitimacy of the league, and that's completely understandable. So yeah, it's one of those grey areas, I think, where we might have to just work together and find some sort of solution based on a case-by-case basis. But anyway, so that was that. The one thing I wanted to mention tactically that might be useful, using Soccer Profile here, is this idea of playing out the back. And I'd love this to be an open discussion, but we as a coaching staff, we love to see this, don't we? And City again today, they've done it. I thought actually Inter were very, very good today as well. But this idea of, from goalkeeper to the front players, how quickly does that happen? Can you find a way to pick off certain players? So as a goalkeeper's got the ball, or one of these players has got the ball, the question starts to be, what does the rest of the opponents look like in order for us to very, in a really nice way, in a pretty way to play, pass through these thirds of the field to generate opportunities in behind the other team? Right, and we all have that question. We all have that MO as coaches, and I think that over the past probably decade, maybe more, I think about United when they won the treble in '99. Going back to my English roots and watching Martin O'Neill's team for Leicester, it very much was a back to front. This is for United. This was Steve Bruce or Gary Pallister. This ball went into 2 centre forwards. Hughes and McClare. They would fight for it. They'd have players underneath, and all of a sudden, ball comes out to Beckham, and then you've got the overlaps, and that's how they played it. It was a second ball game. Nothing wrong with that, but that's how it's played. Now it's let's be pretty. Okay, so here's your centre back with the ball, and the centre back is now looking at what we might call with our kids a cue, right? You're reading what these players are doing. So right now, the back four for the other team is a little deeper than if this is 10 yards, right? So it's about 16, 17 yards for the two central defenders. The three central midfield players, again, these teams are both playing the same formation, are backed off, so there's room to go play. You can play this guy here, right? You can break that line, if that's the right word. You've got past that player, and that player with one pass, right? And you can do that. So this player is reading those cues. Same with the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper could play that ball. You think about, De Gea. I saw, Anana for Inter today was superb with his feet. He looked like a dancing central midfield player, very comfortable, 2-footed, amazing. And he'd draw in Haaland. It didn't matter. He just played. It was really, really good to watch. Anyway, so goalkeeper would be playing these passes, and they over the course of the last 15 years, Manuel Neuer was the biggest. Let's get this guy involved in 4v4s and get them comfortable with their feet and playing. And you add that extra player in here. Think about Brighton as they play. They play with goalkeeper, two central defenders, and one centre mid in here. This is obviously higher up the field, but they just play a keep away thing between these four players until they get past the forward line, the three. While all that's happening, this person doesn't even help out. This person runs away. Not runs away, but they're up the field. This person goes. And they just play here, this little keep away game. It's pretty cool. And they'll do it on the halfway line too. And they end up breaking that and getting fullbacks out the field. So that's De Zerbi. Anyway, but I want to get to this just to simplify it. So goalkeeper or central defender, you're looking at what's ahead of you, right? So what happens, and again, in the quote old days, we would call this closing down, but in the newer, this is the pressing game. What happens if this person's in there, and that person's in there, that person's in there? And we love to see teams ready to steal. That's that Dick Bate thing from the English FA, right? This team's now, they're not 16 yards behind the halfway line. They are up in here, that kind of thing, right? So now what's the choice? And I would love to find out how many, comments or examples of how many times this gets messed up by professional coaches. And again, I'm not one. Being coached, professional players being coached by professional coaches. I mean, like players, coaches, top level, they mess this up. I mean, how many goals in the Premier League this year have happened when this person just might be off there, but it's quite clear that by the time the ball gets to this person's going to jump them. And unless this person's superb, John Stones had a couple of moments in recent games for City where he could wriggle out of trouble, but it is super risky. Because if this gets lost, which often it does, I mean, I think back to United versus Brentford early in the season. They did this several times. I think De Gea played to Eriksen, maybe, who had his pocket pinched, and it's a goal. I mean, I'm not saying I'm on their level, but professional players, professional coaches, why are we making that decision? If you're a central defender and you look at this guy here, even if this person is absolutely a brilliant shielder of the ball as they receive it, Kante or a Rodri or whatever it might be, what's the point? What's the purpose? And I wrote here risk versus reward. The reward is that this person is fine, and you've now broken this line of this three, and this person can now play, right? But you've also got to weigh that up versus who is this? Who's this person here about to jump on you? Think about those sort of pressing midfield players, probably the attacking types or the number 8s. I mean, there's been some great ones. Even someone like Joelinton or Willock for Newcastle this year been great. Eddie Howe's got them jumping on these guys. Bang, you've won it. I mean, like, it's, I don't know. There's been so many goals scored with passes from goalkeepers or this player here into that person here who can't see. And they've got in trouble, lost it, and now, boom, you're in a little transitional moment, and it's over. It's over. So, training versus games, I wrote that. In training, maybe you can go do this, because maybe it trains this player to just adjust their position. We always tell our players, if you're straight on to this guy, You don't want this ball, right? You can't see. You don't know whether this guy, because obviously I'm going to spin this guy around. And this is where I'll mess up the software. I apologise, Stuart and Gary. There we go. I got it. So this guy doesn't want this ball there. He can't see. Unless he gets really great feedback and communication as this ball's played in, it's going to be a nervy situation. I don't care if Busquets was great at this too. This is eyes in the back of the head. Yeah, I get it. Iniesta, look, 900 times in the game. I get all of that, but it's still risky. And if this person's a world-class player, bang, they've jumped you and they've won the ball. And now you're in trouble. So I don't think if you're straight on, you want that pass anyway. So in training, I would be talking to players about finding a way that you get this ball just so that you can see a bit more of the field. So he's changed his angle. She's changed her angle here. Gets this ball. You can now have some sort of sense of what's around you, whether you can go and play forward or whether you just need to start again and come back. So that would be training. But in games, risk versus reward. And so I have this phrase, miss out. And that is that can we have central defenders finding a way to say, oh, too risky. What's the percentage that this person gets out of this trouble? What's the percentage this person is reading this and about to pin? And how good is this pass into this play? It's got to be perfect. Back foot, wrong foot, whatever it might be. Too slow a pass, gets pinched, boom, we're in, right? Yuri Tillemans against Wolves was an example. Excuse me, was an example. So loads. Again, you can tell, you can list them. Send links to the YouTube videos of how many goals were scored when people are trying to play out the back. Pro players, pro coaches get pinched and bang, they're in. So my question is, can we as coaches have an approach to say something like, listen, this is cool. If you can do this, fantastic. But if it's so risky, it causes you a goal every 3 games. Why don't you train this player here to look forward? And if it looks like this person's here, sorry, wrong guy, is in no position to receive this ball, or they're going to have to be brilliant to get out of this little trouble, miss them out. Miss them out and go longer. What's wrong with that? Or start again and go back to the goalkeeper, right? So here, back to goalkeeper. Goalkeeper got the ball. Maybe that's happened. Maybe this person switched off and backed off now. And now all of a sudden goalkeeper can go there. Yeah, turn. And we're in. We play, right? So train that central defender or goalkeeper, whoever it is, to don't play those passes. We call it the stitch-up game. We're stitching them up. I would be furious. I played as a 10, so I'd be kind of in this spot here. If I was marked just here by some big brute, and I'm only small and 5'6" and a bit, if this ball got played into my feet right there and he was about to smack me and I look bad, I'd be having a word with the central defender. However, one solution could be that, again, I just did it a little bit there, that don't play into a CDM there. Go back to the goalkeeper and start again and see if we can get someone else free, see if the other team switch off, or just go longer. If it goes into this player here and he loses it, he's now losing the ball on the halfway line. And the next pass in there, that can be recovered or that can be cut off or that can be defended a lot easier than you losing the ball here to this guy, right? Again, I giggled a bit. Like it's crazy for me that teams play that way or don't coach these players to understand that. I don't know. That's over 50% chance you lose this ball here, friend. I'm missing you out. This ball's going there. And so be it. Guess what? I think that would have kept Leicester promoted. And I've told my friend Ryan that I wouldn't talk about Leicester all the time, but I just did. So anyway, I'd love thoughts on that. Missing out players that are marked in the middle of the field, risk versus reward. Now, it could also be that you're trying to work on patterns through the middle of the field. So it could be that you are going to pass the ball to this guy who's marked, but his MO right now is in 1 or 2 touches get here. But I've also seen that teams have started to pick those things off. So you've got to be really careful because, again, like this sort of pressing mentality that lots of teams have, if this person can get to there, as this guy goes, he's now passing this blind in there, and teams get picked off with a second pass through midfield. So hope that didn't get too technical or too too confusing. But bottom line is central defenders, goalkeepers. You've got the ball. You're looking to play through the lines. Love it. If it's not on in here, just go longer. And then have this guy fight for the ball, or this person, this girl fight for the ball. And underneath, you then just get on the other side of that player, and you're back to Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. Here's York and Cole, and here's Roy Keane and Paul Scholes, right? And there's Beckham with the next pass, and there's Gary Neville with the next one, and the rest is history. He's offside. Anyway, I'm being silly. But hopefully that helps. I'll be back next week, and apologise for the delay. And again, love your thoughts on this kind of thing. I love this stuff. I think there's trends that go around the soccer world. This is one of them. And I'm not saying it's a bad one. I think it's great when it works. But I've seen so many teams mess up and lose goals at the top level. Maybe that's training ground stuff to help the players recognize those cues. But truthfully, in games, you shouldn't be playing a pass to somebody that's going to lose it. That's not time for developing that player in the middle of a Premier League game that gets you relegated. Did I mention Leicester again? Anyway, take care. Thank you. See ya.